Hi, my first grade friends. Mrs. Real here with our last blue insect book. Today we're going to read about people and insects. And after I read through this book, I'm going to kind of go over all the books that we've done so far in this blue insect series. And then I have an activity to do. So you're going to need a piece of paper or two and a pencil. So if you need to stop the recording, just pause right now. I'll wait. Go get what you need. Okay. Hopefully you've got everything you need. So today, we're going to read about people and insects. Think about insects that you know, that you've seen, that are in your space, are in your yard, your house, your school. You know, a lot of them. Okay, we're going to learn some good things and bad things about people and insects together. So I'm going to share my screen. Sorry, didn't want to work very well. All right, so people and insects. Again, our nonfiction book. Sometimes the pictures match well with the text, other times they're in different spots. It's okay, we'll go back and forth, we'll find what we need. Remembering nonfiction books have tables of contents a lot of the times. So in this one, we're going to learn about insects and people, insects good and bad, harmful insects, controlling insects, and at the end we have our glossary, which is our special dictionary for those big bold words we're going to learn, a place for further reading, and our index, which will help us find other important information. Look at this cool picture. Insects and people. Over the centuries, fix that so it's a little straighter, we have learned many things about insects. For example, we know there are times when we don't want to live with them. We've also learned we can't live without them. They're very important. There are millions of species or kinds of insects. Naturally, some cause problems for us. Only about one kind in every 100, however, is harmful to us or our activities. So this is a picture of an atlas moth on the nose of a visitor to Florida's butterfly world, where people walk among free-flying moths and butterflies. If you guys have ever been out to the Desert Museum, way out on the other side of town, and you go into there's a hummingbird area, and you can walk through the doors, and then you're inside the cage with them, and they're flying around, and you get to see them flying around in nature. It's kind of what I think this would be. I know that the Tucson Botanical Gardens also has a great butterfly exhibit, but I've never been to that one yet. It's on my list. I'll get there. You could walk over and have a butterfly land on your nose. I'm not sure what I would think about that. Yesterday, I had a butterfly land on my shirt sleeve while I was out in the garden. That was fun. Insects, good and bad. Insects really aren't good or bad in the sense that people are. Still, we often speak of insects as bad if they bite, sting, infect us with disease, or just, well, bug us. They're also bad in our minds if they attack our farm crops, pets, or property. Good insects are those from which we get something good, a benefit. These helpful insects may delight us with their beauty. More likely, they produce honey or silk or help us with the growth of our fruits and vegetables. So this is a beautiful monarch butterfly. Many people enjoy insects because of their bright colors, strange shapes, or interesting habits. Certain insects, like bees, wasps, moths, and butterflies, are called pollinators. Pollinators are extremely important in helping crops grow. Pollinators move pollen around. Pollen is made up of tiny sand-like grains found in flower blossoms. When an insect pollinator lands on a flower blossom to feed, pollen grains cling to it. So this is a beekeeper checking his hive. Honeybees make more than enough honey for both themselves and the beekeeper. So if you look at my text over here, you see the word pollen in big bold print, and then pollinators. It's the person who moves the pollen, or the insect in this case. So here's a picture of a pollinator. This red and blue beetle will transfer yellow pollen grains from one flower to another. The pollinator moves from flower to flower. At each stop, it leaves and picks up pollen. The movement of pollen helps a plant reproduce or make new plants. Honeybees, for example, pollinate fruit trees and other plants. Without bees, apple blossoms would never become ripe apples. Insects are beneficial. Oh, let's look back at here for a second. So this bug is crawling around in here and all that yellow pollen gets on him. And then he may climb over, or she may climb over to another flower and leave this pollen behind and pick up some more pollen. And then when the pollen gets mixed up like that, that's when the plants make new plants. Or in the case of fruits and vegetables, where they grow the fruit and vegetable parts. So if you don't have any fruits or vegetables coming on your plants or trees, it might be because there's not a bee moving around and changing the pollen, or any of the other insects that could help. Butterflies can do that. Sometimes the wind just does that, but these insects are doing it. Insects are also beneficial when they get rid of garbage by eating it. Some insects improve soil quality by tunneling and moving soil around. Insects are also an important part in the diet of thousands of other kinds of animals. Remember in last week's book, I think it was, we learned that some insects eat or drink from flowers and plants. Other insects eat other insects, and there are other animals that eat insects as their food. So there's lots of different ways that insects are useful. Here's some really cool pictures. This Costa Rican bullet ant's sting has been compared to being struck by a bullet. That part's not too cool, but I love this picture because we can see all the different parts. Remember, we need to have 3 body parts to make it be truly an insect. It's got to have a head, a thorax, and an abdomen. And from the head is where the eyes are, the antennae come, and the mouth and mouth parts are. On the thorax is where all the legs are attached. And if they have wings, which ants do not this kind anyway, the wings are also attached to the thorax. And then there's his abdomen, which is where all of his body, his organs are tucked inside of his body. This is a deer fly. A deer fly is kind of a big fly. They bite. If you've ever been bitten by a deer fly, they really do kind of hurt when they get there. So again, here's his head with a huge eye we can see on this side. His thorax right here, and his legs and wings are coming off of the thorax, and then the abdomen right here. Says the deep piercing bites of deer flies are painful. Deer flies are pests to people, but wild animals eat them. Okay, this picture freaked me out when I first saw it. So you have to look at this. This is somebody's boot. It looked kind of like a snake to me when I first saw it, but it's not. It's somebody's boot. This is the toe of their boot. That's the yellow part, and then the green part is the top of their foot. So it's talking about harmful insects. Some insects have become pests only with help from humans. Fire ants, for example, are not naturally found in the United States. Fire ants came into the United States on wood shipped from Brazil. They had no natural enemies in the United States, so they spread throughout the South. Their digging has ruined farmland. Their bites have killed wildlife and tame animals alike. So if you look carefully on the boot, those are little fire ants. They swarm from their nest mound onto an intruder's rubber boot. So this person happened to step on the ant nest or near it. Luckily, he was wearing boots, or she was wearing boots, and so the ants can't hurt them. But those little tiny ants do bite. Again, just hurts. Japanese beetles aren't native to North America either. In 1916, these shiny beetles were released in the United States by accident. They spread rapidly and gobbled flowers, fruits, leaves, and roots. So these guys do a lot of damage. They don't hurt us personally, but they eat a lot of things. So most harmful insects are just pests. They damage books, clothes, wood, and food. Termites, cockroaches, clothes moths, silverfish, and carpenter ants invade people's houses. They don't hurt the people personally. They just mess up all of our stuff. I also love this picture a lot. Mosquitoes, ants, and bees ruin picnics. Weevils, earworms, and Colorado beetles destroy crops. And locusts can nibble a pasture clean. No-see-ums and a variety of flies and bees have nasty bites or stings. Insect pests cause millions of dollars in damages each year. But some insects can be truly dangerous. They spread diseases such as typhus and malaria. Disease carriers include fleas, lice, and many fly species. So this, I love picture, is a carpenter ant, and it's a real good close-up of his face. So this carpenter ant with his mouth parts right here. Do you see how his jaws are here? His mouth, the whole of his mouth is here. His eyes are up here. His antennae are coming off. In the background, we can see his thorax with his legs coming off of it. So he uses those jaws and he eats wood with them. So if you get carpenter ants into your house or near your house, they could eat the wood parts of your house. Not cool. Ladybugs. This chapter is called Controlling Insects. So they're here. What do we do with them? Humans use many methods to control pests. Quarantine stations exist at borders between countries or states. They try to stop passage of products that might carry harmful insects. So if you've ever gotten in your car and driven to California, you're going to the beach or you're going to Disneyland or you just know people that live there, as you cross over into the state of California, you have to stop at a place and somebody will come up to your car and say, do you have any fruit in your car? And they don't want you to bring your fruit from Arizona into California because it might have bugs on it that is harmful to the fruit in California, and they grow a lot of fruit there. So that's the kind of quarantine station that they're talking about. So they don't want you to bring any of the bugs with you into, so that you have to leave your fruit there. Living insects are natural predators or hunters of insects. Let me say that again. Living controls are natural predators or hunters of insects. They are released to kill certain insects. Lady beetles, or ladybugs, were released in California to kill cushion scale insects. Until the lady beetles ate them, the native Australian scale insects had been killing orange trees. Ladybugs are great aphid eaters. Remember we read the grouchy ladybug? They were trying to eat all the aphids. So this is a picture of a ladybug eating aphids. Those little black dots are aphids. I really could use some in my garden right now because I have some white scaly aphidy looking things on some of my plants and herbs in my garden. So I need to go get some ladybugs to put out there and help them eat them. Chemical controls are widespread. So sometimes you need to spray. Some people spray spray chemicals down to kill the bugs. This includes products called insecticides. Insecticides kill large numbers of insects. But insecticides filter into ground and water, and they are often deadly to animals they weren't meant to kill. In the 1960s, the insecticide DDT nearly wiped out ospreys, bald eagles, and brown pelicans in the lower 48 states. That means the United States, but not Alaska or Hawaii. Today, many farmers try to control insects by changing their farming practices. So we learned from that when they were spraying DDT as an insecticide everywhere to kill all the bugs, but it also hurt the ospreys, the bald eagles, and the brown pelicans, so that they weren't able to hatch out any new young, and then we almost didn't have any of those animals around. So we've had to learn not to use that one and not to do as many of the chemicals as we can. And so a lot of farmers are trying to change their ways, and homeowners as well, by using other things to get rid of bugs. So here's our glossary with our dark black, bold words that we learned in here. Insecticide, that's the chemical we were just talking about. Malaria is a disease that is spread by mosquitoes. Pollen is the grains, the powdery grains produced by some plants. The pollinator is the animal who gets the grains and moves it around. Predator is an animal that hunts and kills other animals for food. Quarantine, means of separating or isolating something, kind of like what we're doing right now. Reproduce means to make others of the same kind. And species, remember it's that kind, the specific kind of insects. So we have now learned a lot about insects. I want you to be thinking about what we've learned so far. We're going to go back through. Last week we talked about homes and habitats of insects, those great camouflage bugs. We've talked about the insect's body, head, thorax, abdomen, 6 legs, antenna, 0, 2, or 4 wings. We learned about all kinds of insects. There were 800,000 different species of insects. And then we talked about the lives of the insects and how insects change from egg to larva to pupa to adult. Sometimes they do 3 stages, sometimes they do 4. And what they look like as a larva and a pupa has nothing to do with what they end up looking like as an adult. So I want you to think about your favorite insect, or maybe some you've seen in here. There's ants again. Dragonflies. These crazy creatures that are camouflaged. Here's the metamorphosis part where they're a caterpillar. So we've got egg, larva, which is a caterpillar. There's another caterpillar that's going to go into a cocoon and turn into a butterfly or a moth. There's a larva stage of a beetle. Here's our cocoon and our beautiful butterfly. But there are so many different kinds of insects. There are beetles, there are crickets, look at that green shiny beetle. That brown shiny beetle. There's another one that camouflages really well. The entomologists who study them, here's the flies, praying mantis with those big, strong front legs. Okay, they are every shape and every size. There's those great eyeballs on the bees. Again, some of my favorites are the dragonflies. If you could design an insect, what would it look like? All right, think about it for a minute while I grab my marker. It's now your turn. You get to create an insect. So all the paper. Oh, there they are. I have some fancy papers that we would normally be using if we were together at school to invent an insect. But we don't really need them. This is just to remind you of the parts. So you have a piece of paper and a pencil in front of you. And it says, now that you know all the parts of an insect, it's your turn to create your own. Be as creative and imaginative as you want. Your only rules are that it must have all the parts that make up an insect. So it has to have a head. It has to have a thorax. It has to have an abdomen. Remember that on the head is where you find the eyes, the mouth, and the antenna. And on the thorax is where you find 6 legs. And if you choose to have wings on your insect, that's where the wings are also located. And then the abdomen, that end part, could have a little pincher or a stinger or some kind of thing at the end. So I want you to be thinking, wow, I get to make up my own. I don't know. Do I like circle-y shapes? Do I like triangle-y shapes? Do I like curly-Q shapes? It's your insect. You get to make it. While you're working hard, here are some things to think about. Number 1, did you get all the parts? Is it poisonous? What's special or unique about your insect? Does it sting? What does it do? What does it eat? Where does it live? And then you're going to get a chance to tell about your insect. So here are some shape ideas, just because. Is your insect's body long and ovally? Is it round and circly? Is it kind of a fatter oval? Is it more of a teardroppy shape? Little circles for the head. Maybe this would be the abdomen. You get to pick anything you like. Here's an example of some legs, because we know they kind of come out of the bodies and then down, but there's probably more parts to them than that. Maybe some wing ideas. Okay, here we go. Let's do this. I'm going to make one, but yours needs to be not mine. So you get to choose. Start with your head. I don't know. I think I kind of like some triangle-y shapes. The praying mantis is really cool to me, and it had kind of a triangle-y shape with a big long neck on it. But I'm going to try for, maybe my triangle is going to look this way. You draw your head. Remember, there is no wrong answer. As long as it has all the parts, there's no wrong answer. Okay, so then I need a thorax. I kind of liked that teardroppy shape for this part. There's my thorax, and I made it kind of big because I want to have room for legs and maybe wings. And then I need an abdomen. I kind of liked that kind of big, long, plumpish oval. There will be my abdomen. All right, there's the beginning of my insect. How are you doing? Okay, so now I'm going to go back up to the head. So on the head, I need to have some kind of mouth parts. There's my insect's mouth parts. And then it needs eyes. So I'm going to give it some pretty big eyes. Like that. And I want some antenna. But I think I'm going to make mine going out front. And I kind of like some swirly antenna. I don't know if those really exist, but guess what? Neither does my insect. I get to make it be whatever I want it to be. So mine has swirly antenna. So on my head, I have eyes, antenna, mouth parts. Now on my thorax, I need to do legs. So 3 on this side. Give him some feet. And 3 on this side. And 3 more feet. And then I like wings. So I think I'm going to give mine 2 wings. 1 on that side. And 1 on that side. And I'm going to put some of those pretty lacy, almost like leaf veins going through there. And then on my abdomen, I wanted to have those little pinchery things at the end. Okay, so there's my bug, insect. How is yours looking? Okay. Now, here's the fun part that you're going to do by yourself without me on the video. I need to create a name for my bug. What is my bug called? You need to name your bug, and you need to color your bug, and you need to design a background for your bug. And then you need to do some writing and tell me all of the things that I need to know about your insect. So you can either turn your paper over, or if you use marker like me and it bled through, you can get a different piece of paper, or if you want a paper with lines, that's all totally cool. So do some writing. Don't forget those things that it was asking us. Is your bug poisonous? Is it helpful? Is it kind? Does it camouflage? What are some of the things that make it interesting and unique? I think mine is kind of unique because I gave it curly antenna. I'm not sure that really happens, but we don't need to worry about that. That's going to be my part that's unique. Does it sting? What does it do? What does it eat? Is this one that goes from flower to flower and sips the nectar, or is it one that eats a lot of other bugs and is helping us that way? And where does it live? Is this in your house? Is it out in your backyard? Does it live in the mountains? Does it like the cold weather? Does it like the warm weather? All of those things that we've learned about insects, you can write to me in a little paper, either on the back of your picture or on a separate piece of paper, and I will check back in with you at a different time to see what we came up with. All right, my friends, have fun. Create awesome insects, do some quick writing, and let me know everything I need to know about your insect, which doesn't look anything like mine, because you guys can make up your own things. So we'll check back in. I'm also going to go get our mealworms and get those checked out too, and I'll do a separate video for that. Talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.